ask from you what you've been kind of working on recently, because this is your first session like with anyone from the Resolve server really. I assume one of your first sessions in general, right? Um,
Yeah.
so when you play games, like what do you focus on? What are you trying to get better at?
So, in general, I recently started to actually try to get better. Before that, I just played for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, right now, I don't really have a focus on
Mm-hmm.
what to get better on.
Okay. So when you're like you mentioned, okay, I'm like trying to get better right now. I'm like moving into it. So what do you do in games? Like what are you trying to get better at maybe, or do you not have
Um,
a good idea of that yet?
I don't really have a good idea of that yet.
Okay.
Mostly when I play, I just um, try to identify my mistakes while I
Okay.
play, but I
Yeah.
don't really have a focus. I want to get better at farming right now or whatever.
Right. No, okay. Okay, so we'll definitely like work on that, right? I
Yeah.
assume with everything you've seen from the server and can't remember who got you in here, but um I
Docs.
Doc's right. Okay. So I assume with like everything he told you as well, you have a vague idea of how we work here, right?
Yeah.
Where we really try to find things to focus on, find
Yeah.
fundamental skills where people can improve on, um, and basically from that point move away from just like aimlessly playing games and
Yeah.
focusing on whatever mistakes might pop up in this new game, right?
Yeah.
And then some of those mistakes will be really relevant and will need to be fixed over many games, but other mistakes might just be a one time every 100 games thing, you know? Like
Yeah.
if you're playing against Jack's jungle randomly and he
Mm.
like cheeses you level 2 and you know, oh shit, okay. So if Jack
Yeah.
cheeses me level 2 on this champion, blah blah blah. It's useful maybe once, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
So
what you mean.
um to start before everything else, could we maybe look at your OPGG first and kind of just check
Oh, yeah,
how
sure.
everything is going, right?
Okay.
Which is mostly just to see where you're at right now, what kind of
Yeah.
champions you like playing, um, all that type of stuff, and basically to make sure there's nothing real strange going on.
Yeah.
I'll share my screen. And yeah, like you said as well, it's like
So I've also done some questions about the improvement tier list. You.
yep, absolutely.
So just why some champions are on there and why some are not. Just
Okay,
so I the thought behind it.
yeah. I'll I can't remember if we ended up pinning that. Let me actually real quick check if we did. I know you can't see it right now. I'm just going into the
Uh,
Resolve Discord.
I have seen like some of your
My
like
general
what you've
answers,
written
I
about
mean.
it. Yeah, but there are some outliers, I feel like.
Oh, okay,
So
okay. Yeah.
for example, Nocturne ult, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of a cheat way to gank, I
Um,
feel like.
it depends.
Uh,
I could see why you think that way. But, um,
so it's completely unique to him, right? That way to gank. So I was
yeah.
wondering why he's on the tier list, or if it maybe just while improving, I should avoid ganking that way. That was the
Um, no, Nocturne is one of those cases where we've just while having student who played like there are some champions on the list, and this
Hmm?
is more into like how the list is how it is and stuff like that.
Okay.
There are some champions on the list who've been on there for like at this point 4 years, right?
Oh,
That's
okay.
because the original basically reason for the list was me and Hitler were coaches on the LS Discord,
Hmm?
and LS had a climbing tier list, and quite some of those champions worked really well in coaching and really helped students along quite a lot.
Okay.
And some others were stuff like Heimerdinger or Timo, right? Where
Yeah.
obviously it works really good for climbing, but you know, coaching with those champions is going to be a bit awkward.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times before we made our own list, we said, oh, just look at the LS tier list and pick any of the champions really. But then we got Teemos and Heimerdingers, and with that type of stuff,
Mm,
we decided to make our own tier list. And one of the champions that was always on the LS tier lists was Nocturne. And
okay.
because we didn't have any very negative experiences with students on Nocturne, we kept him on there. And
Okay.
he's just been pretty much a mainstay ever since. Where,
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's just for us, there's no real reason to remove him because he's just performed really well on on all our students,
Yeah.
really. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. So like I can understand what you're thinking about, and in some ways you could maybe see the ultimate as like a crutch, but um, with how we'll look at everything a bit, then
Yeah.
you'll find that that's probably not the case. And obviously, right, like you don't have to limit yourself to Nocturne. There's many other champions that are options, right?
Yeah.
Um, so just look at your account real quick. I
Yes.
assume you started with focusing on improvement recently
Yeah.
from
I
your
did.
RPGG here.
Before that, for example, I started playing support. I was a
Mm-hmm.
support main, then I transitioned into jungle.
Yeah.
Mostly, I I didn't recently transition to jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I started playing with my friend Sant Deuce.
Mm-hmm.
We're duking and we tried bot support duo.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to jungle mid duo.
Okay.
That's why there are a lot of the support games in between.
Right.
Normally I chose my champions just I got interested in a champion and then I spammed a few games on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I wanted to play another champion, I just played a different champion and
Yeah.
learned them. Just kind of learn a lot of champions.
Yeah, 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 makes sense. It's one of those things where for enjoying yourself, right? Like that's a great way
Yeah,
to do it, especially for if you're just having fun with a friend. But obviously,
yeah,
if you're trying to get as good as you can with
yeah.
your gameplay, then that's very different. Um,
I feel like it gave me a lot of champion knowledge, but obviously it didn't improve my gameplay.
yeah. And then like
Yeah.
looking at champion knowledge itself can be very dangerous sometimes as well
Mm,
because if your fundamentals, like for example, if you're playing a champion like Zed and you can't CS, or you're playing a champion like
yeah,
Ahri and you can't CS, then you'll have a
yeah,
very skewed image of what Ahri can and can't do and stuff like that,
yeah, yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's something that's very common in what we see in regards to students. Um,
Mm,
I guess then a further question is um, if you really want to stick with jungle, right? So we'll have the two major questions here, really, which is what role you want to end up sticking with, and what champions you want to end up sticking with. And these two are very relevant questions. Obviously, you can play every role and improve, right?
yeah.
But you really have to stick to one, otherwise you're gonna, you know, try to do two or three things at once, and
Yeah.
obviously that's not gonna
Uh,
be too efficient.
yeah. I thought about just sticking to jungle. It's the
Hmm.
role I enjoy the most right now. I don't
Okay,
really want to
that's
play support right now, and no other lane really.
Okay, no, that's completely valid, completely viable. I'm mainly asking because
Yeah.
um, while playing jungle and while improving as jungle, there will always be a moment in your improvement process where you will need to play either top or mid,
Oh
or
yeah,
I
that's
guess
fine.
AD, um, which is mostly just in order to basically face real people.
Yeah.
Because in the end, when you're playing jungle, you're always facing the camps, and when you're doing a gank, you're gonna do the same gank over and like very regularly, right?
Yeah.
Which you might not feel right now, but that will be how it'll end up, right? And at a
Mm,
specific point, the only way to really grow further is by moving into lane, by actually facing against real players and stuff like that. So
yeah.
sometimes if you're like really starting out early, like you are, it can be more efficient to just do the laning part first and then move into jungle. But honestly, the efficiency is very there's a very small difference between the two. So if you're just like, okay, I'm really enjoying myself with jungle right now, I'd rather just stick with that and
Yeah.
just keep having fun, then I just recommend staying with jungle. So,
Okay.
is that how you feel as well, or?
Yeah, yeah, I would like to stick to jungle.
Okay, perfect. So we'll start with jungle for sure. Um,
Mm.
you started playing Nocturne, I assume because that's like one of the champions that interested you the most, right?
Of the tier list,
Yes.
yes, but also I have played him before.
Okay, okay.
He was the only champion from the tier list that I have played before
Okay, okay, okay.
a few times. So I just did those 3 games for the VODs,
Yes.
basically.
Okay, okay, okay. Makes sense. Yeah, I'm mainly asking because I assume you have a vague idea with why champions are aware of, like, or at least what the champion is intend like champion tier list is intended to do, right?
Yeah.
Where very difficult champions like Kane, which
Mm.
might not feel difficult or stuff like that, but tend to be difficult.
Yeah.
They require a
I
lot
just
of
got
focus from your brain,
interested.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to try Viego or Kane, and then just started with Kane and just stuck to him for a few games.
Mm-hmm.
So the champions I sent you on Discord right now,
Mm-hmm.
those are the champions I'm comfortable playing in jungle right now.
Right.
But probably all of them are gonna get dropped, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. Um, Something else that could be really good to talk about actually is if we're just gonna move, like if we're just gonna assume that we're gonna continue moving with what's this called, with Nocturne, which is 100% fine, right?
Hmm.
Um, Something to think about is your duo queue partner because
Yeah.
yeah, right, because as you might have seen sometimes in the Discord, um, we don't really recommend playing duo queue while
Hmm.
focusing on improving at the game,
Yeah.
which is if you understand that already, that's easy enough. But it's mostly
Yeah. I
just
have talked to Docs about it,
okay,
and I asked a question about it, and
yeah.
he said, yeah, he explained it a little bit, and I'm fine with that. I
Oh,
also
okay.
trying to level up an improvement account where I just
Yeah, that was just I was gonna suggest that as well.
yeah.
But if you've already talked about all that, then that's way easier. At that point, let's just honestly go to the VODs because
Yeah.
I think I've already talked with Docs about all the things that are important to know. Um, which I'm very happy about. That saves me a lot of time. um, I'll share my screen in a bit again. It'll just load. Essentially, what I'll be focusing on in regards to these VODs is your pathing.
Mm.
So there are some base rules that I like to impose on jungle players, which
Okay.
is
And
essentially um, easiest way to view it is there are certain times where like there's only a couple of times where you really need to do a camp, and all of the
yeah.
other times you basically want to do something else than a camp,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So, or you want to be looking for a gank or something of similar like to that, right? So the general rules are the only times when it's good to do a camp is when you're getting a level up from it, you're getting an item from it, or if there's nothing else to do on the map, right?
Okay.
So what I want you to, well, possibly change into, I'm not sure how you'll play in jungle, we'll see that, right? Is more of a way of playing where you're mostly just looking for ganks all the time, opposed to just always farming, right?
Yeah.
Which might sound strange on a champion like Nocturne, who traditionally is like known as a champion who just like perma farms until six
Yeah.
and that. But that's just like we've just found that it's not necessary for him to play like that. Obviously, there's a difference between like what's optimal in regards to improvement and what's optimal in regards to
Winning
yeah,
games.
winning games. And
So I played those 2 games today in the morning.
yeah. Yeah,
They
we'll
weren't
just
really good, but I figure that's fine.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're just gonna look in general
Yeah.
yeah, how everything's going. And also this UGG, if it's you might want to like just look out for it because this can be really distracting.
What?
The
You're not sharing your screen right now.
oh, am I not? I thought I
No.
was. Okay, my bad.
Ah, okay.
Um,
Are you recording already?
yes. Yeah, 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 I've been recording since the beginning.
Ah,
Yeah. No, I make sure to get everything. But yeah, this thing in the bottom,
yeah.
the style, see where already started and stuff like that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's the Zara thingy. I
yeah,
installed it just a few days ago.
you uninstalled it or installed it?
I installed it a few days ago.
Yeah. I think in
So if I
general, you can just ignore that mostly. Um,
okay.
again, like something that I don't care about, for example, is
Hmm?
your first route, your opening route. As long
Okay.
as you pick one route that's pretty accepted, that's pretty meta, pretty normal, I don't really
Yeah.
care about the type of route you're doing. I see it similarly to chess in a way, where everyone has their own opener, right? And
Hmm?
if you're going to play the Queen's Gambit or the English or whatever, I don't really care about that. What I care about is you're doing after that, right?
Right.
So I will say that this route is looking a bit weird. I haven't seen a buff to buff Nocturne in a long time, unless this is going to be like a very range full clear.
Yeah. No, it's buff grump because I don't really have a good full clear on Nocturne, so I figure I might as well start ganking on with level 3
Okay, so I think
instead of
if you're
having
gonna do
half
it
a
like
level.
this, then might as well just do all the counts down, right?
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm fine with you doing something like this. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. If you wanted to do something like this, like I said, I don't really care about the exact route, but I would
Yeah.
recommend just like adding the other camps in.
Okay.
Um, Something else you might want to look into in general is just you're clear and making sure that there's nothing like bizarre happening. You're not taking too much damage.
Yeah.
And yeah, like this is definitely a good way to look at specific things, right? So it's important to recognize a difference between just something you're doing because you've planned it, right? Or in this case, you really planned going buff, buff, grump, and then just looking for ganks,
Yeah.
right? I think what could have been interesting to see, for example, to walls, then the question would have been, is there really nothing to do on the map, right?
Yeah.
And if we look at bot lane, obviously there's not much to do. If we look at mid lane, hey, this is looking nice,
Yeah.
so let's go here, right? If that was the reasoning that went along with it, then obviously
Yeah.
that's
That
very
that
good.
was.
Um,
I
yeah.
in the beginning I was planning to gank bot lane, but since the mirror and Lulu pushed in, I couldn't.
Okay. You please, can you? I apologize
That's fine.
differently in regards to. Wait, another student's help might work. Give me a second. His trick was to open Task Manager, and
Okay.
for some reason, according to him, that would help a lot. Okay. If this can finally pause, then we'll actually look at this gank and how it went, and we'll talk about what went well and what went wrong here. For that,
Yeah.
YouTube just needs to load. I'll stop sharing for a short bit so that everything can load, and I'll get back to you when I'm there. Yes, there we are. There we are. So in general, this looks like a good idea. Oh, is this me? This is not me. Okay, that was the FOD. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, this looks like a good idea in general, but I think the execution here failed. Whoa, massively. Okay, that was not me.
okay. I'm not sure what happened there.
It's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, I died to the gank and got first blood.
Yeah, but like you can see there for sure, right, that the execution is real not great,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And right here, um, this is one another moment, right, where what you're doing right now, you can ask yourself like, is this really? This is not me, by the way. The
Yeah,
the VOD's
sorry for
doing
that.
real weird.
Yeah, next time I will double check the votes, but I didn't really have that
No, no, it's
much
fine,
time
it's fine.
today.
Yeah, and this is where you'll really see certain disadvantages of things that you did and
Yeah,
choices you made.
that was greedy. I mean, I got it, but still, not
Yeah,
really.
it's not a good idea. In
Yeah,
general, I just gone back to your jungle and farmed other stuff. But yeah, this kind of just the weakness of your route in general,
mm,
right? And then right now, if you look around, this camp will give you a level up, or should at least. I'm quite sure of that. Obviously, you want to get your smite
yeah,
down, like done. Yeah, that's what I thought. And now again, like, oh, okay. I mean, you might accidentally already be doing what I want you to do, with like possibly without the intent to, because it does look like you're doing this just like arbitrarily or like randomly. And if that's the case, then that's not great. Oh, brother, be careful.
yeah.
And you want to be careful.
Uh,
Whoa, okay. You want to be careful with just like going in randomly and staying around for really long,
yeah.
because this is where you like
I'm
kind of
dying to this.
ruin it for your bot laner
Mm,
and ruin it for yourself, right?
yeah, and I'm gonna die to this.
Yeah, I am not surprised. Right, this is like one of those things where after they walk away when you walk in, you kind of just have to
Mm,
back off.
yep.
Right. Obviously, you can already know beforehand what's going on, but it's constantly the question between, hey, I'm gonna. Also, I would not have gone bot here. Like, this is another thing we can talk about in a bit. Let's just pause and get a notepad out to collect everything. So, okay, only do a camp um if one like A, these are three options. Right? If A, you get a level up. B, you get an item. Or C, it's nothing, aka no ganks. Right?
Okay.
Then ganks, right, are split up in the idea of the gank and the execution. Right? Where the idea of the gank is basically, for example, when we look at this mid lane gank,
Yeah. In the beginning.
right? We can look at this lane state and see this guy's level 3, our LeBlanc's level 3 as well. Like, he's pretty pushed up. There seems to be a pretty nice chance for us to get something here. So I think this is a pretty nice idea. And I'd probably agree with you uh, in the idea, right?
Mm,
And we can see that LeBlanc didn't decide to press W until the end of the gank. Possibly because she didn't have it up, or possibly because she was just not a great player, right? So we can look at this
yeah.
gank again and think to ourselves, okay, what would have happened if, you know, if I played that really well and didn't die? Then it would have been really good. What would have happened if LeBlanc, blah, blah, blah? That would have been really good. So we can look at that gank and think, okay, the idea of that gank was pretty good, but the execution of it was pretty terrible, right?
Yeah.
Now, right here, you decide to go to the bottom scuttle, right?
Yeah.
Which is a bit of an odd choice, right? Because when we were in base and you checked the top lane, you saw that Renekton was being pushed in a lot, and that top lane actually looked very gankable. You also
Yeah.
have all your topside camps still up, you have your wolves still up, so you could easily slowly make your way up top, right?
Yeah. The this why I did it was because I hate ganking set. I had a lot of bad ganks with set.
Okay,
See,
you slowly
I'm.
do want to avoid this type of thought process,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Which basically the third thing to talk about as well. It's like when leaving the base, um,
Yep.
These are basically the two questions to ask yourself when leaving the base, right? Where do I need to go? So in this case, I'd say probably top lane, right? Seems to be the one that's like the easiest to gank. It's the one that's gonna be the nicest to gank in general.
Yep.
You could maybe say bot lane, but I think that's gonna be rougher, right?
Yep.
So if we think right now, okay, we're probably gonna head top lane soon, then the question to ask yourself is, do I need to go to top lane right now? Can I do a camp in between? Can I do multiple camps in between? Right.
Mm.
And you can constantly reevaluate your decision while doing that, right?
Okay.
So right now, I'd say, okay, we should probably go to top lane, and we should probably be there quite fast. So maybe we'll do golems in between, or maybe we'll just head straight up there. If Renekton starts to recall, we might do raptors, golems, and then top lane, right?
Yep.
If I look at bot lane right now, I'd say, oh, maybe that's an opportunity, but I'm not sure about that. Especially if you think a little bit about the champions that are going to be there, right? And in general, like the actual champions that are there don't matter that much. But obviously, if you've got a Lulu, right,
Yep.
she's not gonna be able to do a ton of CC. So if the enemies aren't very pushed up, then you're not gonna get much, right? Something else to
Yep.
notice is here, for example, you don't always have to help everyone, right?
Yep.
Like especially if it's like your duo Q mate or something like that, or
Oh, that was solo.
what did you
Those
say?
were solo queue games. Those were solo queue games. I didn't
Okay,
do
okay.
on this games.
But yeah, in cases like that, so for example, moving up there, I think the idea of it is bad. I think the
Okay.
execution of it is probably bad too, but the idea of it is worse. And
Okay.
obviously, this is kind of awkward and everything like that. And we do get really lucky with it, you know, is part of
Yep.
why the idea and execution part are important to look at. Because right there, that worked out for us. But if you really look
Yep.
back at it, we can say, okay, the idea of that play right there was real bad.
Yep.
Like it was not smart for us to do that. It just really worked out. It's important to do both sides of the coin, right?
Yep.
So it's very easy to focus on, oh, this looked good, but in actuality it's bad. But it's difficult to notice this was bad, but actually it turned out good, right? And it's
Yep.
very important to look at both. Yeah, with this gank, I'd personally say that the idea of this gank is not great, and the execution of it is also quite poor. Right, so we immediately get knocked away, and this for me would be the point where I just
After
like
this.
walk away, where it's like,
Yep.
oh, okay, it failed, right?
Why would you say that the idea of this gang wasn't good either to begin with?
Um, I mean, I think this idea is possibly salvageable if you like somehow outplay Vayne's E, but if you look at the positioning of everyone, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Your Samira is half HP behind the tower, your Lulu
Mm.
is all the way up
Yeah.
here, and your opponents are gonna be here. The second you move into
Yeah.
vision, both of them start to run away from you.
I think at this point I kind of tunnel visioned on the enemy and didn't see that the Samira moved back.
Yeah, another thing to
I
look at,
didn't even
right,
notice it
is
while looking at this right now. Yeah.
yeah, but like another thing to notice is your enemies are running away even though you haven't even shown,
Yeah.
right?
I knew that it was watered, but I kind of wanted to force a gank. But I should have turned around and after the E for sure,
Yeah,
at
I
the
mean, like
latest.
I wouldn't have blamed you for turning away right now, for
Mm.
example.
Okay.
Would not have blamed you at all because like right now I'm already thinking, okay, this is never gonna work,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I
Yep.
think the idea, I think the idea now is good. So far it seems fine, right? Especially if
Ah.
Samira and
Okay.
Lulu
Okay.
really move up. So far this seems
Mm.
fine, and now it seems super bad, right?
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
now it's even worse because you're just forcing it real hard. They're already super safe. Now the enemy jungler might come up and stuff like that, which is what ends up happening. And this is another case. This is a case of like bad idea and bad execution.
Yeah.
And now like again, right? Like we're in base and we need to ask ourselves where do we need to go? And I think the answer would be either mid or top, right?
Yeah.
the question then would be, what's that on the minimap?
Also from Zar, it suggested ward spots in general.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
orange thingy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might want to get rid of
Yeah.
that software, honestly.
Yeah.
Think it will
I
be real
just
distracting in general.
started to trying it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this again, right? Like doing that camp, if we think back to the rules, was very good, right?
Mm.
Because we had literally nothing to do.
Yeah.
Moving into here, I don't think makes sense. I don't think there's anything to do here. I would have just gone to golems. And what we're doing
Okay.
here is just, you know, very arbitrary to me, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'd ask you, oh, why are you moving into this jungle? I don't think you would like you
I
would
was
have,
asking myself the question while I was doing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're level 4, going against the level 7 guy. Can't really do anything. Udyr's gonna come along. Also still level 4. And it's kind of just also a result of you constantly being in lanes for that long, right?
Yeah.
And you can definitely win this if your execution is real good, especially
We
if you
will
hit your
win
E,
this.
if you press it and don't get out of the range.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was again another case of a bad idea that ended up working better than it should have.
Yeah.
Right. Bad idea saved by execution, where execution can also honestly like, you know, be improved a
Yeah.
ton too. But that guy's still out there.
This is really a shit show.
Yeah, and here we're obviously like way over chasing, right?
Yeah.
Where all of this, if I'm asking you like, what are you doing right now? What is
Mm.
all this about? Then
Yeah.
I don't think you would even have an answer at this point.
Not really. But I knew it was bad while like during the game.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it though.
Mhm. It's one of those things where um, it can be really difficult to quickly transition from
Yeah.
playing for fun and just doing everything towards playing for improvement or playing to win
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Right. Yeah, that camp, for example, is another case, right? And then like some things to take into consideration here, right? Like after we do this jungle camp, where again something I'll recommend to you right now. Um, this is something that some coaches go into way more than me, but I would heavily recommend to you is to just look at the clear of either a pro or someone who's really good on Nocturne and
Mm.
look at the difference in HP between you and him. Because to me,
Yeah.
it looks like you're taking a ridiculous amount of damage compared to how much damage they're taking.
Yeah. I'm not kiting camps at all.
Yeah. Which, like, normally I don't talk about too much because I think it's pretty self explanatory, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But I haven't really practiced kiting caps, especially on Nocturne. So that's why I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I would really
Because I
recommend practicing it, though.
okay.
Um, Mostly just because of how you're playing right now.
Yep.
And, there's like a lot of moments here where, you know, red like buffs always make sense. Buffs are kind of exceptions to the earlier rules. But then if I ask you like why are you doing this camp, then
Kinda to get more HP
oh
a
yeah,
little bit.
but like the HP issue is mostly just because you didn't do
Yeah.
the ret buff well, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously like right now, if I'm looking at the map, I'm seeing top lane, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm seeing mid lane maybe.
I think at this point I kind of wanted to farm a little bit to get six because I felt like I was really behind in XP and gold.
Yeah. Oh, you are,
So
but
I
like the
I didn't
reason why
think I
is
could.
not because you're not farming right now because of your opening route and because of other things like
Yeah.
the bot lane ganks, right? And this is also where, in jungle, if you've got multiple bad ideas or bad executions in a row, you are
Mm,
gonna get into a point where you will need to do things that are incorrect, right?
okay.
Which what you're doing right now, I'm only telling you, oh, you should look out for what you're doing here or notice that you're doing this here. I'm telling you that not because um, it's something bad in this game, but it's something you should avoid in general.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay. So, for example, you doing that Raptor camp because you're super low might make sense in this game, but I don't think it makes sense
In
in
general.
general games, right?
Yeah.
And here, like staying around here or even doing this dragon didn't make much sense to me.
I kind of wanted. In this case, I kind of wanted to cover the Lulu, but yeah.
Yeah, but like again, right? Like let's think about what level we are and all those things. It's
Yeah.
also one of those things where the Lulu's staying around because she's seeing you around and
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I gotta cover this Nocturne because what if this and this happens? And
Mm,
there's also a case where we're like 2k gold in the bank and we're still out on the map,
yeah.
right? So we're being super inefficient in like a lot of ways constantly here. And I don't like this fight here. I don't think we should go in this direction at all. I don't think this is
Yeah.
a good idea, right? I don't think there's anything here really. And
Yeah.
you'll see like this is one of those things, right? Where and it's fine that this is happening, like 100% fine. But you can notice already that a lot of times you're doing things and they just don't work out at all. And it's really
Yeah.
important to notice that these things aren't working out at all, right? It's fine that they're not, but it's important to notice, right? Because it's okay
Mm,
that things don't work out, that's part of improvement, but the important part is then to really think about if that was the idea or the execution. I think in all those cases it was the idea, right?
yeah.
And if you recognize, okay, the idea was bad, make sure you don't do it again, right? Because in the end, that's the way you're going to improve. That's the way you're going to grow. If you're just going to do it again afterwards, then it wasn't very helpful, right?
Yeah.
So like right now, I don't think, but I mean, maybe if you can do something on a
And
tower, but
I'm
I would be
going in and
surprised here.
dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Right, where again, like just a consistent yeah, yeah, I mean, if it doesn't work out, at least you know from now that it won't work out, right?
Yeah.
Um yeah. And well let's go to the next game because the rest of this will be less interesting in general. Um
Yes.
okay. And next VOD. And I guess in regards to opener, uh, it's opener, which generally right now is like a 4 camp or 5 camp. Right, like 3 camps aren't great right now, as I understand it. And I think like apart from the early moments, by the way, your thought was fine.
Okay.
So I assume, yeah, that'll be fine.
I personally feel like this VOD was better early, but
Hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah, and obviously invades like these
Yeah,
are very
the
RNG, right? And they can
I
create
hate
cases where
invades.
like the yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I never do invades unless they like.
Yeah.
As you can see in the beginning, I was behind them, but then they still went in, so I just followed.
Mm.
That's also the case sometimes. I get baited by bad plays. Like I know it's a bad play, but I
Yep.
follow because my team is there.
Yeah, and you want to just avoid that, right?
Yeah,
Um, for in general for students, the easiest way to remember things or to think about things is by just imagining your teammates as like either NPCs or some type of animal. Generally, people see them as like monkeys or something, right?
yeah,
That are just doing completely random, arbitrary things, and they're not really thinking, they're not really conscious, they're just doing their thing.
yeah.
So, but in general, with Nocturne, I'd just recommend doing the 4 or 5 camp, right, where you just do Rad, Raptors, Wolves, Blue, and then either Gromp or Gank or whatever.
Okay.
And if you just make sure that your HP doesn't get disgustingly low like it is right now, then I'm pretty sure that if you're doing a clear that's mostly what's it called? Mostly single target jungle monsters, then it's better
Yeah.
to do E level 2 instead of W. But I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll maybe look into that.
Yeah.
I'll probably see if I watch lots of
Yeah.
other players.
Yeah, and here again, like let's think about this idea. Do you like this idea right now of going top here?
Um, Not really.
Yeah, makes
That
sense.
too pushed in.
Right? It's way too pushed in. And when a lane is pushed in like that, we're not really gonna get anything unless we're like gonna go for a crazy dive. And we want to avoid doing really weird things like that. And this is kind of where the weakness of our route comes forward as well, right? Where we need to wait so long for a scuttlecraft to spawn.
Yeah.
And if our opponent comes up now to contest, then it's very possible that he's already level up compared to us, right? And this like if we're like this again, right? Like this is the issue that comes up. Like this idea, I mean, it's a better idea if you're looking for this dive, right? But it's still the same concept, right? Like this guy is already super pushed up, and now why are we here, right? Like
Yeah.
there's 4 camps up, there is a bot lane that's pushed in, there is a mid lane where something's happening. So why are we top lane right now? It's not going to do anything, right? And now if our opponent randomly shows up and he already full cleared and did the bottom scuttle, it's going to be a big issue.
Bad camp.
I think this is a fine camp because there's nothing to do,
Okay.
right? Like if we look at all the lanes, like and we really think, okay, can we help anywhere? I don't think
Yeah.
so, right? So there will be some game like you moving mid lane here is smart, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And in the end, it probably won't be necessary, like we're seeing here. But you moving mid here makes a lot of sense. I think if Yasuo goes in like that, by the way, just leave him. Okay. If
Okay.
if a player is gonna be real stupid, allow them to be real stupid. They might die, and that's all fine. But it's better to let them die than to be baited into a bad play. And again,
Okay.
notice right, like there's nothing for us to do if we're not doing camps, even though they're just right there. It's important to keep notice of that because all these camps are just up. And when I'm quiet, by the way, it just means that everything seems fine.
Yep, I
Just so
figured.
you know. And yeah, here I would just honestly do the grump. It's fine not to care too much about dragons. You can see dragons as like rewards for real nice ganks.
Okay.
Most of the time in solo queue especially, I would say that dragons are mostly bait. Um, that they just
Oh, really?
yeah. And here, like you moving into mid lane here, I think is another case of just like I don't think what you're doing here is actually a good idea. In the end, it
Okay.
ends up being kind of fine because you get a big wave, and that's real nice, right?
I kind of wanted to push in the wave, and then that's fine.
Yeah, like what you're doing there makes a lot of sense, and it's probably correct as well. Um, but I would avoid doing it for right now.
For improvement's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So what you're saying makes perfect sense and it's correct, right?
Yeah.
But focus on yourself before focusing on others right now.
Okay.
And here again, right? Like we're almost 9 minutes in, we're still not level six. We've got all these camps up. We're always looking for ganks, and that's kind of what I meant, right? Like on one hand, this like part of what I want you to do, and I really like seeing that you're already looking for ganks way more than you're looking for camps. However,
Mm.
currently you're really on heavy ganking, and because of that, you're wasting a lot of time,
Yeah.
right? And it's fine that you're not there yet, but um, really look at the ideas they're putting forward. Because right now, for example, you're like top lane or bot lane makes sense to me. And if I think, okay, let's again, right? We're super low level, so it's going to be difficult for us to really do anything because we're way
Yeah.
lower level than we're supposed to be compared to this point of the game, right?
Yep.
So let's look at the map right now and think of where we need to be. If we look at mid lane, pretty pushed in, we're not going to need to be there. If we look at bot lane, could go there, but at the same time, if we're going to go there, there's no camps for us to get, right?
Yep.
So if we're going to go bot, it better be successful. And with like the enemies being high level and us being level 5, it's probably not going to be successful just randomly, right? So the only other place that could make sense is top lane. And look at that, top lane's pushed in. We
Mm.
could do something top lane probably. And then the question we need to ask is, how quickly do we need to be top lane? How many camps can we get in between?
So,
Right.
probably just go straight there.
Yeah, that definitely be a fine option, right? I think if you would take blue in between, that'd be a fine option too. Think
Yeah.
if you would take multiple camps in between, that'd be a fine option, right? But otherwise, just going straight there and then going back to your jungle as like a reward for a successful gank would have been really good too.
Okay.
And yeah, definitely just mute all. Don't worry
Yeah.
about what NPCs are telling you. And yeah, like that Nocturne kill looks real nice. Or sorry, that Olaf kill looks real nice. Yeah, I would have personally just waited for him to blast cone over. But
Mm.
and yeah, here you don't do Herald, by the way.
I do Harold.
That's fine.
Because I thought Malphite and Olaf probably recalled. They didn't see me there. So just thought might as well go
Mm.
Harold.
It's possible, but just in general, like Herald doesn't give you that much. Right, for the time you put in, you could have done 3 camps, and then with those 3 camps, you're gonna get more gold, more experience, and you're
Okay.
generally just gonna be more useful. And you're gonna be around the side of the map that needs your help more quicker, right? Because if you
Okay.
look at, so for example, let's look right now.
In general or for improvement sake?
Um, both, but the in general one um, is like a contentious. That's like a hot take.
Okay.
But yeah, like for right now, if I look at the map, Akali's too
Yeah.
low to help. Mid lane looks fine. Bot lane looks
Mm.
fine. Let's go do camps, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at like, and then let's say we did a camp. If we're looking at it right now, we look at bot lane. We're like, oh, okay, bot lane's not great right now. Maybe something will happen. You do the next camp. You do the next camp, and then right now, this is where we can make decisions again, right?
Yeah.
And we look at all the lanes. We're like, oh, okay, nothing important's happening. Okay, let's do the bot side of our jungle. And here, like skipping out on wolves, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
It's fine that you did, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
And here, right now, again, like you're moving bot lane. Is there anything bot lane? I know Olaf is coming up, but is there really
And
anything bot lane? But like if
I wanted to get first turret bot lane.
yeah, okay, that
That's the
makes
reason
sense.
why.
That's good for winning sake. That's another like makes sense.
Yeah. But not for
It's good that
improvement
you're
sake.
already thinking about that, but that's
Mm.
something we'll get to later.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some things where it's good that you're already thinking about this, and what you're saying is definitely correct, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for me is another example of an idea that wasn't completely great that worked because the enemy Olaf is was real bad,
Yeah.
right? And generally want to avoid using blue or red smite on camps if you can.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if the Jenna was gonna be annoying, so I spotted it for HP.
Yeah, and what you're doing here
Just
is
because.
like, well, this is what you're saying, right? Like you wanted to get the tower. Where I
Yeah.
think this is something that I would avoid if I were you for like just improvement sake games, especially
Yeah.
if you're staying around like this. Like I don't think that's very correct. Regardless,
Yeah.
right? You're kind of just inviting Olaf to come over, and then you know, your bot lane's already not having a great time, and having you in there to steal their experience is not helpful.
Mm.
Like here, like you could have already done your entire jungle because there's not much to do. If you look at top lane, you could have already done quite a lot on top lane,
Yeah.
right? And this again, I don't think you're going to be doing
Staying too
anything
long,
here, right?
wasting time.
Yep. Especially with just how many camps are up. And if you really look at your own gameplay back, right, I think you'll
Yeah.
notice that a lot of the time you're just like consistently wasting time
Yeah.
because you're looking around or you're babysitting people too much,
Okay.
right? Definitely just use your E on camps. Try to avoid using smite randomly, right?
I wanted to get the camp fast and then gank them. That's why I didn't use my E. Because I wanted to have
Well,
it for the
you
gank.
can do both.
Fair.
Yeah, this ended up. The execution wasn't great. There were a lot of like missed things in your combo.
Yeah.
You eat late, you cute very late. You
I
didn't W
smited
certain
the
things. You know,
I
well,
smited the
you
minion.
smited the camp. So there's a lot of things that went wrong there. You also did a little bit too early, but it ended up working out still. I think the idea was good as well. I think that was a
Okay.
nice looking gang. I think the dragon could like this is a case where like I can understand the dragon, right? Like you just killed the enemy bot lane, so let's just get this objective. I get it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And here I'd be looking to either recall because we got 2k gold, which is a lot, right?
Yeah. I think I'm doing the raptors and
Um,
then recalling.
not belong, I guess. Right. But generally, if we could um, put a big, easy to understand like thing, is the major thing that's going on right now is that you're wasting a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you're doing the opposite of what a lot of people do, right? There's basically two things that people do, and that is either what you're doing is like waste too much time, or they're farming too much, right? And
Okay.
this first rule is a lot for people that farm too much, and
Yeah.
this like the second rule is a lot for people like you who waste time too much because they're not thinking about what they're doing. So like right now, what you're doing
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, right? There's
I
nothing.
want. I did want to get top tower. That's why I'm
No,
pushing the wave.
no, I know, I know what you're trying to do, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense from an improvement standpoint. It absolutely
Yeah.
doesn't, and from a
Yeah.
win percentage standpoint, in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense. Um,
Yeah.
Getting top tower doesn't help your top laner. It doesn't do anything really. Um, it's one of those things where it's similar to like getting a pawn in chess. It's like yeah, it's nice, and the game tries to tell you that like getting pawns is good regardless, but there are some cases where it's not actually helpful.
Yeah. Getting Herald there was probably the mistake overall, right? If
Yeah,
I didn't get Herald,
you could have not taken Herald, or instead of like
yeah.
fort like when you get Herald, I think the easiest way to look at it is you don't need to force yourself to do something just because you got Herald,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And here I would just honestly take the red buff. There's nothing else to do. There's no right like again, we're just
Mm.
wasting time. We're not doing anything useful. I think you'll really benefit from just actually looking at your own gameplay, which unfortunately is for jungle like a lot of what you need to do, and just constantly thinking of what are you doing right now? What are you trying to like right now? What are you doing right now? Why? I mean, this dragon is actually looking nice because the Yone and Caitlyn died. But at that point, like, why are you doing this blue buff? Why not do your own jungle? Do you know where the enemies are? I don't think you do. Do you know?
All of them were top lane, and our Fediaso was like doing stuff.
Yeah, but do you? Well,
I'm
are they
dying here.
are they all top lane though?
Four people, I think. Or
No,
three.
there's Malphite.
Malphite is bot lane. I mean,
Oh, okay. There's two
I
people.
saw that they were there in
Yeah,
vision, right?
yeah,
And Yasuo was holding them back, so I just thought might as well take the jungle.
yeah. I'm mainly thinking about Yone and Caitlyn who are respawning, who can easily move away from the map, right?
But they're mid lane, or they were mid lane until this point, and
Caitlyn
now.
was mid lane. Yeah, Yone
Oh yeah.
wasn't seen.
I
Yeah,
didn't see
but
that.
yeah. If that's like if that's completely what you were thinking in the moment, then
Yeah. That was what I was thinking.
okay.
And now I got baited by you not wanting to get in. And now I'm dying because I missed clicking the blast cone and flashing.
Nice. But yeah, like I think like that again, right? Like you really need to ask yourself, what are you doing there, standing with Yasuo?
Yeah.
Your entire jungle is up. Just get some camps,
Okay.
right? You don't need to just always babysit people. A lot of time you're doing nothing, really, right?
Hmm?
And
Yeah.
then the rest of the game, I'd recommend just basically um,
Do you think I should have gone for this wave?
for that way. You could have. I
Top lane.
think going for the wolves as you did was completely fine too.
Okay.
There are a lot of things where both options are fine. But yeah, something to um, think about as well is that in games, you never need to be the playmaker.
Yeah.
And that's really important to continuously like think about, because what you can just do is you just wait for the enemies to go get a bit too antsy like your Yasuo was, and then you just
Yeah.
punish them, and that's it. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. You just wait for them to make a mistake and you punish them.
Yeah. And that was bad going bot side overall.
Um, I mean, yeah,
Because
I could see it, but honestly, I think with the three of you, it would not have been smart to go Baron unless you know that they're on there.
well,
If you yeah okay, if you knew
I
that they
kind
would
of
be,
knew they were on there, yeah.
oh,
And
then it was
then
really bad, yeah.
yeah, oh, I
But yeah, like
I predicted that they were on there,
mhm,
and then I watched tab and I wanted them to blue ward, but they didn't have any, and
yeah,
just ignored it.
yeah,
It
that's
was
not a
bad.
great idea. Yeah, honestly, I think if we just look at the main things that we talked about, um, so for you specifically is avoid right,
Okay.
and avoid baby lanes, right. Take your camps.
Yeah.
I'll copy paste that in here as well, right.
Okay.
Um, this is mostly what to work on. That's a lot, right? There's a lot to
Yep.
take in, so definitely if you need a refresher, look back at the message here. I'll even pin it for you,
Thank you.
right? You look at your message there. Otherwise, look at the session again. Look at the specific things, right?
Yep.
Make
I
sure
will.
to really think. Make sure to really look at your own replays and
Yep.
think about what you're doing because a lot of things that you're doing don't make sense, right?
Okay.
Really look at your own VODs.
Yep.
Um, do you have any questions?
Um, None really that I can think of right now.
Okay, if you
Is
do
it
get
fine
any
to
questions, sorry,
message me?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I was gonna say, if you do have any
Yeah.
questions, just message me. I
Yeah.
tend to be pretty free. It's possible that it will take a while to like for me to answer, but
Yeah, that's fine.
generally I'm pretty free. So
Okay.
okay,
Sounds good.
I'll try to upload the session as quickly as possible. You should get it today. Um, if you haven't gotten it yet, or actually, it should be up until like it should be up in like 20 minutes, I think.
Okay. On
Yeah.
YouTube, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. I'll just send you the link. It'll be
Okay.
hidden, so
Yep.
you'll have access to it, and anyone who you want to send the link to will have access to it too.
Okay.
Apart from
If
that, it
you,
will only be
yeah.
used for like educational purposes in the Resolve server.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna use it with other people, could you maybe make sure that
Absolutely.
the Discord pop-ups are blurred out? I did notice it in game.
Discord. Oh, I'll just
When I recorded my
I'll just
screen.
avoid to use it in educational contests then. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate that.